Yeah, so hi everybody. We are very glad that you could join us today. We have a lot to cover, but we're really looking forward to an interactive conversation as well. So if we could go to the next slide, we'll pull up the agenda. Today, we'll really start with some information about Nestle, the impact we can have, the breadth of our product offerings, how we started, and how we innovate and grow to ensure that you and the world has access to food, beverages, and supplements that enrich lives for people and pets. So after, we will segue into insights that relate to you, where you can work, the kinds of career opportunities at Nestle, and who we look to hire and how to apply. Then you'll get to hear from our own employees, particularly Ashley Edwards, who will share personal perspectives on life at Nestle while serving in the Garden Reserves. From there, we will open up and take questions from you. So that's the part we're all looking forward to today. So let's go to the next slide and start with the mission of Nestle and our ambitions to create impact at scale. We are indeed the world's largest, it's okay. Oh, I'll just say real quick, we're indeed the largest people and pet food and beverage company. Our mission is to unlock the power of food to enhance the quality of life for everyone today and for generations to come. We have three ambitions that really help us to do this. These ambitions set out to make a difference for individuals and families, for society or communities, and for our planet. So now we can play the video. Great. So, again, coming from a great mission, you guys are coming from a great mission of serving our country. And I thought this was a really good video because I feel like you can actually feel why we are here today, and some of the work that you can do that impacts the lives of many people at a global scale with an organization that has the size to make a real difference. So I really love that. I know it's kind of like a feel-good way to start the presentation, but it's also a good way for me to share something without just talking about it. So let's go to the next slide. And right now I'm going to ask you to go ahead and use that chat box to share some things that come to mind when you hear Nestle. I want to hear, maybe there are certain products that come to mind, or maybe commercials, memories of great experiences that you had while enjoying some of our products. Go ahead and keep chiming in that chat box, and then we'll move to the next slide. But it's kind of fun to hear from you and see, what first comes to mind. So again, we'll go to the next slide, please, Tyler. Yeah, so Nestle has over 2,000 brands. Some of you may have mentioned that in the chat, right? Like maybe some of your favorites here. As you know, we have foods that enrich lives from, you know, cradle to grave. We cover the entire spectrum of life. So that includes our Gerber infant and toddler food and snacks, for baby formulas. We have frozen goods like Stouffer's. I'm sure many of you have had a Stouffer's lasagna at some occasion. And I know growing up, that was one of my favorite things. Lean cuisine, pizzas. We have so many different types of pizzas. The Wildscape products, if you haven't tried those, they're pretty amazing. Hot Pockets, of course, and more. We've got numerous top pet foods and products out there that, you know, all of the pet owners out there, you probably know those products more than I do. That we also have delicious snack products like the Nestle Toll House cookies. Also snacks for pets like Frosty Paws ice cream. And of course we have the very top offerings for like for coffee and creamer products in the market, including things like Nestea, Nescafe, Taster's Choice, of course, Starbucks, Chameleon. I don't know if you guys have ever tried the Chameleon cold brew coffee, but it's one of my favorites and gives me that nice kick in my day that I often need. And of course, to sweeten up that coffee, we've got a slew of different coffee mate creamer options for you. We also have a lot of waters products to include premium brands like Perrier and San Pellegrino, also one of my favorites. And finally, there are numerous vitamin supplements and meal replacements that you can also you know, include in your daily diets, to include Garden of Life's products, Pure Encapsulations. That's my go-to brand of vitamins. And then those who need it, Boost and other things. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. I just wanted you to have a sense for the wide array of different products that you may or may not know are part of the Nestle umbrella. And since it all started with infant formula, I wanted to ask you another question, and you can again chime in the chat box. Can you guess when Henri Nestle created the first infant formula? This is actually, again, pretty much the founding date for our company. Give you a few moments to see how many people get the right answer. And then we'll go to the next slide. So our roots really began in 1866, but the pivotal moment was Henri Nestle's breakthrough invention of the first infant formula. This was a remarkable innovation that allowed all children to have access to nutrition when fresh milk wasn't always accessible. So, you know, how many of you really think about Nestle as a top innovation company? Yet, you know, as you can see here, innovation has always been at the heart of Nestle. We continuously are evolving and growing, and through organic growth, also through acquisitions, our company is frequently listed among the top 50 most innovative companies in the BCG annual survey, and we are in the top of our industry. So I point this out because I think it's really exciting to know that, you know, if you do get a chance to join Nestle, you're not just joining an ordinary company. You're joining a company with 150 years of history, and that is poised to continue with maybe the next 150 years of innovation and growth, and a great mission. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. And, you know, as I was saying, we have grown both organically and through strategic innovations and acquisitions. This slide really just represents that the market has shifted. As the market has shifted, we too had to shift. And sometimes we acquired companies, sometimes we've divested some businesses. And as you know, as I mentioned earlier, with the first infant formula created in 1867, you'll see here 6 years later, the you know, sales of that product scaled in the U.S. with distribution to hospitals across the country. And then 3 years later, our factory operations were both in Fulton, New York, and further expansion can be seen with more facilities opening and then acquisitions of various brands over the years. So we can go to the next slide. and then I'll have one more quiz question for you. So this is a little bit easier for you if you happen to do some of the grocery shopping in your household. Can any of you guess, on average, how many Nestle products does each US citizen purchase each year? Is it A, 500, B, 10, C, 250, or D, 100? And again, just type in, as some of you are, your answer in the chat box. And then we'll go to the next slide and see our answer. See how many people guessed it right. The correct answer is 100. So Nestle sells about 30 billion items each year in the US, which means about 100 products per person per year are sold or consumed in the US. This presence makes the US the highest grossing market for Nestle globally. And the only one coming in second is actually China. So we'll go to the next slide. You get to see the impact here really of how much we have in terms of our sales, right? As we stated, we're the world's largest food and beverage company. We are actually over 30% larger than our nearest competitor when it comes to sales, with about $90 billion in revenue, as you can see reflected here. And we're poised to be a $100 billion company at the end of this year. So think of that impact and that scale. It's pretty powerful. We'll go to the next slide because I don't want to bore you with too many graphs and details like that. The leading, as Nestle, Nestle is, a global entity. We are headquartered in Vevey, Switzerland. And in the US market, our 2,000 some brands can actually be found in about 97% of households, with 1 billion Nestle products sold every day. I'm sure some of you have some of those items sitting in your kitchens right now. I'm actually going to go to the next slide just in the interest of time. But this gives you a little bit of perspective, further perspective on how we're structured and the scale of our company. So with us being so large, you know, as I mentioned, with the headquarters in Vevey, Switzerland, you're probably curious about, when you hear, or maybe you've gone to our website and it's been confusing because you've automatically to go to Nestle.com, and there you'll probably see our global information, and then you have to go to a different market like the US market. So this gives you a little insight on how we're structured. Nestle has multiple operating zones across the globe, and then regional markets that we operate in. So US is part of Zone Americas, and this actually includes all of North and South America markets. The US market, sometimes we talk about this as the NIM, Nestle in the US market, is actually one of the largest in the globe. We have multiple operating companies within this market, and you may often hear us refer to these as OpCos. So I know this is sometimes not the most exciting thing to know, but when you hear there's a difference between brands and our operating companies, the operating companies kind of house some of the brands that you may know. So Nestle USA is the largest, and some of the frozen foods and things of that nature, the coffees that you know of, fall under that brand, that operating company. And then we've got Nestle Waters Nutrition, which is also the Gerber products, Health Science, Professional, Nespresso. We have our Nestle IT division, and of course, Nestle Farina. So within each OpCo, there are various business divisions, such as baking and global foods, frozen foods, our coffee partners division, beverage, and more. I don't know, Parina, maybe somebody can share some of the different divisions on your side, even kind of chiming in on the chat so that the audience is aware of some of those different divisions also. And then finally, I'll just note that in addition to seeing this kind of this architecture, I guess, this structure, that when you think about working at Nestle, you're probably thinking, okay, where do I fit in? So we often talk about functional areas of work or the functions of the business. These are the groups that support the businesses that, like the business divisions that I was talking about. For example, We've got our factory, supply chain, marketing, sales, human resources, finance, legal, and more. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of that insight, because sometimes you hear us talking about various parts of the organization. We do want you to think of us as one company. And as you look at opportunities with us, you may get a chance to talk to recruiters from different parts of our organization. So we'll go to the next slide. And I know some of you, again, are probably wondering where you might work and what kind of jobs you can find at the different Nestle locations. So we'll actually go to the next slide and start with our map. If you remember on an earlier slide, I talked about the different operating companies. Here you'll see highlighted strongly the different corporate headquarters for some of the operating companies within Nestle in the United States. On the left side of this slide, you'll also see all of the different states that are represented by where we have various locations, different operations, from factories to distribution centers, satellite sales locations, and we're basically located across 26 different states in the US. So I'll pause here for a moment and let you take a closer look at this. Feel free to chime in on the chat if there are locations that you would like to hear more about working at. I ask you to do this because some of our recruiters might want to take note of these and maybe message you privately, or we can kind of chat later. It's kind of good to know where you might be interested in working. Realize too that, of all the states listed here, not everyone has a factory, not everyone has a distribution center, right? But you'll start to discover that as you kind of dig deeper in conversations with us. So we'll go to the next slide and talk about some of the different types of career opportunities that you can have at Nestle. What kind of jobs do we have? What kind of work sounds interesting to you is really what I want you to think about, right? Do you want to get involved with creating and developing products for our consumers? Do you want to create and test formulas or design and shape new products? Do you want to help ensure that our consumers get quality products, or that they can have on the shelves or online? You can see listed under some of these descriptions some of the different functions of the work that support that kind of job, right? And so these are some of the things that you might want to keep in mind as you're trying to decipher, and you look at our site and see different jobs out there. Maybe you're saying, I really want to do quality assurance, or maybe I want to do something on the logistics side, or I want to get involved in leading our operations at some of the factories, or things of that nature. So it's good to kind of absorb a little bit about this as you're thinking through, and you'll have access to this deck after this presentation today. So we can always come back to some of these too during the Q&A. Just, again, when you think about it in this context, these are just some of the functional areas of work that you may look for openings when you're trying to match your interests. And going to the next slide, we'll have another video for you that gives you a little bit more insight on manufacturing. So the manufacturing jobs at Nestle, since I know many of you are interested in that. I'll go ahead and play it. Thanks. So that's always fun to see a little bit of what it looks like in the factories, isn't it? And I think Justine's on the call, and I should have actually added some information in here too about a really cool new site that you could actually access as well to get access to a virtual tour of one of the Purina factories. So we can share some more info on that later as well. So we'll go to the next slide, and then just for some of you who are interested in the supply chain side of our business, I think this slide represents some of the things like the interconnected way that our supply chain teams work to ensure quality products get to shelves and to our consumers. And maybe someone from the recruiting team, if you want to jump in here, feel like I'm doing all the talking. So if you want to jump in and share any insights on supply chain, what you look for, feel free. Otherwise, we can kind of come back to that later too. But does anyone want to jump in? Okay. We'll save that conversation till later, I suppose. The next slide, please. So now you may be wondering, what qualifications we seek and how to represent yourself as a good candidate for Nestle. One of the reasons we're here today is because we value the leadership and experience that you bring from the military. And we value achiever profiles as well as agility, acting with speed, collaboration, and courage. I think all of these are traits that probably resonate with each of you. These are ways of winning at Nestle. And again, these are the traits that you'll probably find in every employee that works with us. And these are what we believe are the traits that help us to adapt, to innovate, and win with our consumers. Is there anyone from recruiting wants to jump in a little bit? I know we spent a lot of time and effort in kind of really honing in on the achiever profiles, or that we've been, that there's probably some questions too from the audience here that might kind of tie into how do you talk about, the experience that you have in trying to frame it in these facets, right? Like from a mindset perspective, the types of hard skills that you may have acquired in your time in the military, or some of the flexibility that we look for to continue to grow and to expand your career with us. Do I have to call on anyone from the team? Somebody want to jump in, give a little bit of insight on this? I see comments on the chat. Yes, so we have 3 main IT hubs, that's right. Okay, well, I think we'll probably get into some of this in the Q&A as well. So again, in the interest of time, we'll kind of keep flowing through and go to the next slide. So this is just to kind of remind you, obviously being here today, we are here because we truly value you, your military and military affiliated experience and backgrounds. We are fully committed to building the right inclusive environment at Nestle. Creating and maintaining that supportive culture is something that we do through a lot of the strategic partnerships that we have. We have earned some external recognition, as you can see here, because of the efforts that we make to really condition the environment that we have. We're not only focused on trying to build the right talent pipelines from the military community, but also looking for ways to continue to support our employees and creating a long-term career home. So I could dive into this further, but I will kind of jump towards to the next slide, because I think, again, some of that will come out during conversations. And this is just 4 steps that you should take if you are actually interested in looking to a job at Nestle. First, you know, we recognize we have a number of different sites that you can go to. So this one and this link is actually created just for you. I recommend that you go to our website to explore the different job openings that are available today. And if you see something that you're currently interested in, go ahead and take some time to put a thoughtful application in as soon as you can. Now, if you don't see something that is a good match right now, you don't have to stop right there. You know, you could still explore, dig further into some of the things that we offer, take a look at some of the other jobs that we have just to understand the interconnectedness of how this work, you know, you may interact with some of these other types of roles, and join our talent community. This is you know, this is a talent community that our recruiters do leverage regularly. It's one of the first places that they go to when they're looking to fill one of the openings as they come up. And there's information that you will be able to put in about yourself that can help them to find you more easily, but also to be able to share with you some insights about, you know, new job openings that are coming up or other updates that are important to share from a recruitment standpoint. So, and finally, don't forget to keep your program manager from HMA informed of your progress when you apply and when you progress to the key steps in the process. You know, we try to stay lockstep with them in terms of that communication, but it does help, you know, even, you know, with the multitude of job applications that we get on a day-to-day basis, your program manager can help to get your application surfaced to be able to get that attention. So don't hesitate to let them know and to, again, keep them involved in the process. So I know you probably have a lot of questions at this point, and I really wanted to leave at least, you know, a good portion, you know, the majority of this conversation for some discussion. And you know, I'll actually first go to the next slide, and you know, we'll kind of open up to some employee insights, particularly Ashley Edwards, who will introduce herself and share a little bit about her story.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Ashley Edwards. I am a training manager in Fort Dodge, Iowa. We make wet cat and dog food in a can. So a little bit about me. I joined the Army Reserve in 2012 as a medical logistics specialist. I have one tour to Afghanistan under my belt. I still serve the Army Reserve, but now I'm a drill sergeant. And I'm happy to say that this month is my 8-year Army anniversary. And this month is actually my 3-year anniversary with Nestle Purina. So I made the career change from an emergency veterinary technician to Purina because I was tired of commuting about 2 hours each way. And I utilized Iowa Home Base Services, which is a veterans website or job sourcing. And Nestle called me 3 weeks after I put my resume in. They contacted me about a production team leader position, and it was only about 16 miles away from home. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna make cat and dog food now. So I noticed that the transition to this career was really fluid with my ideology in the military. We implement key standard routines and policies just like standards and regulations in the military, and how we hold soldiers accountable, that's how we hold our hourly employees. The Army values are something that I can easily enforce in my hourly employees. And as a team leader, I was able to grow extremely fast rapport with everyone within, I think, the first 3 months of the company. Everyone knew who I was, and I knew everyone on the plant floor. So I noticed that my ability to be multifunctional in a corporation such as large as Nestle is much like my military service as a drill sergeant. We wear many hats throughout our day. And just like in Nestle, we wear safety hats, quality control hats, equal opportunity hats, being a teacher, being a student, all in one, right? So in my 3 short years with Nestle Purina, I've taken on promotions from production team leader to training specialist And now with the help of my GI Bill and tuition, Nestle's tuition assistance program, I have been the factory's training manager for about 10 months. And in addition to those promotions here at Nestle, I believe that my career progression with the company has aided in my promotion in the Army Reserve to Staff Sergeant and now Sergeant First Class this month. A few things that I have noticed with working with Nestle Purina is, as a Reserve Drill Sergeant, I have to go on to active duty missions for up to 3 months a year. And Nestle provides a little bit more financial stability with salary compensation while I'm away. I have not deployed with Nestle, but I can say that I have definitely experienced a world of difference from my previous employers. And they have been very flexible when I have to go onto active duty. And our team is always ready to make me feel comfortable coming back to work like I was never gone. Our team here at the factory and headquarters are great advocates for our veterans. And we here in Fort Dodge employ 31 veterans, including myself, which is really amazing to me because our head count is only about 200. So I work really closely with people from all different branches. They always make us feel supported in everything that we do. If we come up with a project outside of work, how can we help? What do you need from us? What can we donate? Things like that. So I get really excited when I'm asked to participate in events like this or sessions outside. We were sponsoring an honor flight to DC this year, but since COVID, that honor flight was canceled. And we actually got one of our employees that had retired from the Army and now has worked here for 22 years. We actually got him a seat on that honor flight. So hoping that he'll get another seat when we start resuming those. They've gone so far as to funding a new working dog for the local police force, which was amazing to see what kind of things that Nestle is available to do for the community just in our small little outlet here. They truly understand the recognition to the sacrifices all veterans and their families have made in their careers and lifetimes. And they honor us not just 2 days a year. We get recognition all year round. And they always want our input of how to do project planning because they know that we can get results. I think I'm gonna just close this out by, Nestle has given me so many opportunities in the last 3 years. I don't believe that I will be leaving the company until I retire. So I believe Nestle Purina has turned me into a lifer. And so that's all I have. That's awesome. There's a lot of benefits that are really great. The benefits that were on the screen that Elizabeth had in the slide deck, the Gerber plan for newborns, the health benefits, the tuition assistance. Like I said, it's helped me get my bachelor's degree. It took me 12 years, but I got it. So that's a little about me, and we do have positions open here in Fort Dodge if you want to come to Iowa.
I love it. That's awesome. Thanks so much, Ashley.
Thank you.
And that's not the last you need to hear from her. We're actually going to go into the Q&A session now. So we just wanted to give you insights from one of our own. And, I think there are a few questions that are actually coming into the chat. I haven't cycled through all of them right now, but please feel free, unmute yourself and ask some questions. I think we would love to hear any of the folks on the Nestle team can answer as well. So,
yeah, I've got a question for any of the recruiters who might be listening. I'm sure it depends on the location, but I was curious. I was looking at the laboratory technician role in Dublin, Ohio, and I was curious if you guys offered any sort of part-time positions for someone who's going to be attending college full-time.
Yeah, I can chime in a little bit on that. So what we find at that laboratory and different quality technician positions across our factories and within Nestle, we do run most of those at 24/7 facilities. And we will hire people to come in on off shifts or are able to work off shifts while they continue their education. And as Ashley mentioned, we do offer tuition reimbursement, tuition assistance. So there's that benefit as well.
Also, chime in on that. I don't know if all plants offer this, but with our maintenance department, we do offer mentorship and sponsorship. So if you want to be a mechanic, we will offer a part-time schedule, but also I think they do a tuition reimbursement through the local community college to get your certification in the maintenance program there. So you can work there, paid full-time here, and work whatever hours work with your school schedule. So we do offer that here, and I'm not sure if other plants do that as well.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned I'm sure it depends on the location. I'm sure if after this meeting, I could look into it more. But just knowing that you guys do offer the chance for part-time is promising. So thank you.
Thank you for the question. Somebody chimed in on the chat and asked a question about how well the company values diversity and inclusion. In our appendix slide of this doc, we actually have a slide here just because I figured this would be a question that would pop up that really states what our vision is from a diversity and inclusion perspective. So 100%, we have a team of folks who are involved in diversity and inclusion strategy, but it's something that we consider as part of everyone's job at the company. And we have, if you go to the Nestle USA website, you can actually see information there about some of the more recent commitments that our leadership has positioned externally. We have 12 commitments out there that we are working to ensure that we achieve in response to a lot of the recent events for diversity and inclusion, efforts that we have to make. But our D&I vision is to continue to foster an inclusive workplace that is built on respect and pride and generates equal opportunities for all and enables us to win in the market as well. Part of the reason we're here today is because Project Opportunity, which is a program that I lead from a strategic standpoint across all of our operating companies and partner very much with some of the folks here on this call to achieve our purpose, is Project Opportunity is tied into the core mission of our company. So if you remember that very first video that we showed you, and it talked about, our mission and that we really seek to accomplish that mission through 3 ambitions. One of those ambitions is to affect 30 million livelihoods that are somehow connected to the ecosystem of Nestle. And so one of the ways that we do that is to ensure that we are creating upskilling opportunities for people of all backgrounds, whether it be youth or military affiliated, folks who are, coming from non-traditional routes of education, all the underrepresented groups. We want to particularly focus on these hidden talent pools because we believe that this is an important part of continuing to build not only jobs and economic security within the markets that we all operate in, but also in order to ensure that we have the right culture within our company. So I don't know if anyone has anything else to add there. I could talk about that one forever.
I have a question about your required certifications, if any. For someone who has experience in a particular field, say logistics or procurement from the military, are you then looking for them to have continued that and maybe added to formal education? Or do you accept their military experience without further certification outside?
And I can field a little bit that, and that's a great question. And so we have had success. I've personally gone out to Scott Air Force Base, Fort Campbell, a couple of others, and talked with individuals with specific logistics experience within the military that, let's face it, got really good at moving people, moving equipment, and supplies all over the globe. And that's the type of background that fits really well with what we do in supply chain. And so, no, extra education, always great, but no, coming out of the military with that, yeah, those have led to supervisor type of positions at our different distribution locations across the U.S.
Thank you.
I'll kind of add to that question. So somebody like me, I plan on participating in the program next year. And so I'm a combat arms soldier. I'll be retiring in like 20 plus years. I don't have necessarily like logistics, technical type background, but I do have a lot of experience with leadership and all those different things that go along with that kind of job. So how does that in general, how do y'all look at that kind of experience where it's not a specific technical experience, but I do bring, some of the other things to the table?
So Mr. Bibb, I just want to say that your technical skills is leadership. You can't teach leadership, one. We here at Fort Dodge, 3 of our team leaders that work the production floor are actually Marine and Army combat arms. No college degrees, and they've been here with the company for about 8 to 10 to 15 years. So there's always a spot for you. Leadership is a technical skill.
I was also a drill sergeant, so I thought that was interesting you brought that up. One of the best jobs I ever had.
Yeah, that's great. And if you remember back on that slide, there are other things there too. So think about, those categories of mindset, different types of abilities that you may bring to the table that you've had exposure to in one of the multiple jobs that you've held, right, within the military. And also especially that leadership background. I think being able to just share your story of how you can pull on some of those experiences that touch on those capabilities and skills are something that you should just practice being able to share with recruiters.
I just have 2-part questions. My first question is, there's a lot of openings basically away from myself or away from my locations. Are you guys willing to pay for relocation? And the second question I had is, I was looking at your website and basically there's no closing date for each position. How would you know that if it's still position or it's already a closed position?
I'll start with an answer and then our recruiters can jump in. So just like one of the other questions, I think location, not location, but position by position, it's a case-by-case basis in terms of what relocation might be available per job. So it's a hard question to answer because there are some positions that, depending on the critical nature and some difficulties in filling it, I think there are some opportunities at times for the organization to put some budget towards that. But it's not every position, and they don't kind of look at it as a holistic, we will do this for all of our X jobs, right? So, and then the other part to your question is that, as far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but recruiters, once the job is technically filled and a position has had someone accept the offer, it closes out on the system, which then will be reflected in what you actually see in terms of job openings. So as long as it's posted there, they are recruiting against it.
Thanks.
We had some other questions in the chat for you all, Elizabeth. One of them was, does Nestle partner with veteran-owned staffing companies for the purpose of recruiting or staffing support?
We do. I mean, we have a pretty strong recruitment organization. So we try not to lean on the staffing partners where we don't need to. We prefer to have staffing partners such as Heroes Make America in developing our connection to the right talent pipelines. That said, this is a different market as a whole, and with the trends in future of work looking to contingent workers can sometimes lead to us working with third parties. My understanding of that process is that we have approved vendors that are part of, there's a procurement process that is handled usually about every 3 years. And there's a formal RFP that goes out, and then staffing vendors might be invited to participate or position themselves to participate. And then they do get selected to be on the approved vendor list. We do always have a certain percentage of those or number of vendors in every procurement process that come from diversity groups. So that's the long answer, and the short answer is yes.
Perfect. So there's another one. There's actually kind of two that tie into each other. So one asks, do recruiters specialize in a specific geographic location or in areas of work? And then someone also asked if there were any recruiters in Texas that they could reach out to. So.
Any of our recruiters want to jump in on that one?
I can jump in for Purina side of things. We sometimes specialize by area depending on a particular factory, but it can also be by job function too. So I deal with, for example, a good amount of engineering roles, but I also support our Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania factory and our Flagstaff, Arizona factory. And sometimes other things get thrown into the mix too. So it's a bit fluctuating. As far as Texas, I don't personally support there, but we do support the Merrick factory that's in Hereford, Texas. So we do have a connection there, and I'm sure we could get you connected to the right person who's supporting whatever openings they have now.
Thanks, Brittany.
And I can kind of talk to the to the Nestle USA side of it. And we are kind of split up as far as recruiting goes in specific divisions. So I will handle engineering and a lot of our technical and production salary positions across all of our factories in the U.S. I also handle some finance positions now too. But and then we've got other kind of groups of recruiters that will support supply chain, our technical groups, our sales and marketing. So they're a little bit individualized. And here's my shameless plug though, would be definitely kind of get involved in our talent community. And you'll be able to control what positions you see and how to kind of drive your process a little bit better than trying to reach out to a specific recruiter.
Yeah, that's a great point, Rob. Absolutely great point. And then if you think back to that slide where it talked about like what kind of jobs do you have interest in, what kind of things you want to do, it's partly because those functional areas of the business are probably what some of these recruiters are focused on. But that can also shift too. Our sometimes our business needs shift. And so sometimes recruiters shift their priorities. As Rob was saying, he's going to be picking up some finance roles as well. So sometimes when there's surge needs, we shuffle the deck a little bit. So you don't see all that in the back end. So trying to figure out who to reach out to is a little bit of a, I don't know, it's kind of like a crapshoot in a way. It's like it may get you there, but you may have better ways of spending your effort and time with your search. So yeah, and then in regards to Texas as well, I think a lot of the things that we have open in the Texas area tend to align with our Nestle Waters business too. So which they even have like facilities. I don't know what's specifically close to Dallas, to be honest, but you could certainly, if you wanted to hone in on that location in particular, try to look at what is available for Nestle Waters jobs, and you'll see some things there.
Perfect, thank you. So another question from Alan in the chat is, I'm currently going to school for IT cybersecurity. My question is, do you have jobs for people like me who are trying to break into the IT world? So do you have entry-level IT positions where you can help mold the employees that you're looking for?
Brittany, can you speak to this and the Nestle IT side?
I actually, unfortunately, don't partner too much with the IT side for like Purina, but my colleague Justine, if she's able to chime in, has dealt a lot with supporting Nestle IT or IT at Nestle, whichever they're preferring to go by at our St. Louis hub.
It's chicken and an egg question, isn't it? IT at Nestle is what we usually prefer to call them, but I'm not super, I hate to say it, super well versed in the entry level roles there. I would redirect you back to our career site that we showed you, as well as joining that talent network form. We do really use the talent network to farm for those roles. On the manufacturing side of our business, we do have an entry level IT program for those who have completed their 4-year degree, and it's called our Management Development Associate Program. And that one is open to those who are in their final year of schooling. And I believe we currently have some of those roles posted. And the goal of that program is to help you accelerate your career to be a manager on the IT side of our business within a factory setting. So that would be another great career acceleration opportunity for someone looking to break into IT.
So along that
Yes,
line,
thanks, Justine.
I'm sorry. So along that line, as far as IT, I'm a software quality assurance director. I've got close to over 20 years experience, but I'm located in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Are you guys in this particular region of the South, or are your IT roles more in the upper Midwest part of the country?
That's
I
a
think,
good.
go ahead, question.
I was gonna.
Go
Sorry,
ahead,
I was on a roll there.
Go
that
for
is a
it.
great question. We do post a lot of jobs to the IT at Nestle company I just mentioned. But we do still have some IT jobs at factories, and I know that Purina has a factory located in Fairburn, just outside of Atlanta. And so I would direct you back to that career site when we do have those roles posted, and we might actually have one posted right now. It's a great spot to see what's posted. And we're, as Liz mentioned, very quick to post and pull down as those are getting filled. So everything you see on that website should be very up to date.
Very
Yes.
good. Thank
One
you.
thing to keep in mind too is that our I guess the IT positions tend to hover in specific corporate locations, but as Justine was saying, that occasionally there are some needs at some of the other operations, like whether the other facilities. But a lot of our corporate sites tend to be where there's some type of IT work needed to be filled. And then also at the IT hub, which is in the St. Louis area as well, which is also Purina's primary headquarters and hub. The other thing I wanted to note is that, there's a lot of evolution happening in terms of the IT needs across our business, right? And so, we are still really looking at where some of those digital skills are going to be evolving in different facets of our business. So when you think about getting into that work, right, you may need to consider different ways, depending on the industry, right? You might have to think about, where does IT touch on certain jobs, and is that something that you would be interested in doing versus taking a specific IT only job, right? Like, there's some people who might say, I want to only do networking, and that's fine. But if you're IT facing and you're interested in really kind of driving the operations and the effectiveness on the supply chain side, but you also have some other technical capabilities that you can bring to the table, maybe there's a combination of those skills that might be applicable to certain parts of organizations.
Yeah,
Liz,
sure.
I just wanted to chime in one more thing. We do sometimes post remote IT roles as well, and that's usually going to be noted in the job description. If that is a role that's open to remote work. So that could be another great spot to look as you're searching for roles.
Yeah. For me, I've been in the IT space for about 23 years. So, I've got a lot of seasoning there, and I'm also at the executive level. But like I said, I'm located in Atlanta, and I was just curious if the majority of your roles, which it sounds like are at your more so at your corporate level in the Midwest certain part, but there could be some remote opportunities depending on the need.
Right. About 2/3 of the hiring that we have within Nestle fall within our factory, some may call it technical production, depending on which operating company you're in, and supply chain and sales types of roles. So, just that's something to bear in mind as well. A lot of folks who sit in many of our corporate locations, it's a mix of experience. We've had for many years a great pipeline of developing folks coming out of, say, the college hiring program, and they've kind of moved. Sometimes they've progressed from starting their career in factory or in a field location, kind of working through getting their jobs, learning the business, and then have had a chance to move into other places in the company. And that's often how many of them have kind of landed into roles, leading manager roles and above within our corporate sites. They've sort of acquired a good knowledge of Nestle over the course of a few years. And that's one of the reasons we're trying to develop this talent pipeline with the military population as well. We want to make those inroads a little bit stronger for folks to be able to bridge into, career progression opportunities within our company, not just come in the door, but really to build, a long-term home here. I think, were there some other questions that we haven't touched on in the chat? I feel like I saw something about apprenticeship. Can't find it.
There was a question in there from Sandy Artman, I think it was. Does Nestle sponsor any apprenticeships / internships or even SkillBridge fellowships?
Yeah, and so again, talking about Project Opportunity as a program, right? This is a program that's really our career acceleration initiative. And one of the areas that we focus on is creating skill building as well as access to opportunities. So that is a key part of what we do is apprenticeships, internships, training programs. We haven't yet formally launched anything that ties to the SkillBridge program. We've had several conversations to look at doing something, and I was actually hoping that we would have a pilot program up and running this year, but that got a little bit impacted by COVID. So it's potential in the works. Apprenticeship opportunities that we've had in the organization to date have been mostly tied to our factory positions. So, know that you don't have to walk in the door in an apprenticeship, but you could come in, work with the company, get a little bit of experience, and then a lot of our apprenticeship opportunities are built to help you upskill within the company. So maybe going from an operator position into something that's more of a specific skilled trade and building those skills over the course of maybe 3 years, and getting yourself into a pool for potential leadership role too. So there are some different programs underway as to expand on what we currently do, and we're always looking to enhance that. Did I answer your question fully, Sandy, or do you have any other follow-ups to that? She's still on.
I think he got it. He said, we did have a question as well from another participant that says, I am working for a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. Does Nestle's procurement / purchasing groups have SDVOSD utilization goals?
I think that can we, yeah, maybe we could take that offline, because I think that's a little bit of a different angle to go here, and I'm not quite the expert from our procurement side, so I'd like to just maybe take that offline if we can. Absolutely. I'd like to focus on the questions that can help our veterans and military spouses on the call to find opportunities within Nestle, or just to be better prepared for the for opportunities, whether it be at Nestle or elsewhere. Thanks. Don't be shy, everyone. You've got a number of folks on the call here, so this is a great opportunity for you to ask some questions.
Do you have resources available to help vets who might be interested in working for Nestle specifically, but they don't necessarily have a particular area that they're interested in working in mind?
Um, I, I'm trying to,
Can I
can
clarify?
yeah.
So-
I mean, that's what this is.
So I work with a lot of veterans here in South Florida,
Mhm.
and a lot of them, like, they're great workers, but they don't have an idea of what they want to do because their MOS doesn't necessarily translate into the civilian world. So they're looking for work. They're looking for great companies to work for, which I consider Nestle to be a great company to work for. But they're not necessarily interested in human resources or anything in particular. They're just interested in working for the company. So they're looking for a way to get their foot in the door, and then branch out from there.
So I guess there's two ways that I could probably address that. One is, through efforts like this and through our strategic partners, we try to ensure that we're able to provide some insights as to make someone a better applicant to some of the opportunities that we have. Things like the upskilling opportunities, internships, training programs, things of that nature. They are programs that we're, as is looking to evolve further, enhance, and so if there are opportunities for folks to get into those opportunities, again, we're trying to work closely with our partners to ensure that we are connecting with the right audiences to get them into that talent pipeline as well. So, we have efforts in that way, but I think that to be able to, to have teams of people, especially in the recruiting team, that are essentially being career coaches to other folks, that's something, unfortunately, we're not really equipped for. That's something that, we can sort of on ad hoc basis as we're talking to folks that may not be the greatest fit. I know when I was a recruiter back in the day, I used to do that if somebody wasn't the right fit for a job opening, but I had already scheduled that time with them. It's up to the recruiter to give them the remaining time that they've had to be able to give them some other insights that might support that person in getting to position themselves better. So, I don't know if that fully answers your question, but, we do try to work with strategic partners to create more of a supportive, system on both sides to create those opportunities.
And I can chime in. Oh, do you want to go ahead, Ashley?
I was just gonna say, based off of like a production floor, manufacturing floor aspect of it, a lot of our veterans with MOSs, like a fueler, for instance, there's not something in manufacturing that would have that job. So we have had a few veterans come in as just an hourly production worker, and then we have an abundance of opportunities available because they do encourage us to be somewhat mobile once we hit a certain salary position, and you're able to travel to different plants. And if I was looking, if I'm in this position as a training manager with wet division for 5 years, they may say, hey, we have a dry position open. Would you be interested in going and learning the dry side of the company? And then my position would be open, and they would move up the chain from there. So career progression in the factory floor is somewhat like the NCO chain. So you're not, they don't want you to be stagnant. They want you to progress in your own career because you make them better with your own progression. And that's just what I see for factory floor wise.
And I was just about to get into that. I was going to say, when we're posting positions for our factories specifically, we're including military experience in those requirements. So for any of our hourly positions, if the MOS doesn't quite fit what our job description says, it's open to people that have worked in those environments. So if you've dealt with any type of lift equipment at some point, we can probably train you on our forklift in the warehouse. They're open to, if you've worked with different type of maintenance on equipment there in the field, we can train you on some of our maintenance as well. So there's plenty of opportunities for it. Unfortunately, it's just not something we reach out directly about. So if you had somebody who's interested, they could sign up for our talent network and say what types of work interests them, and they'll get alerts as far as what type of openings there are, and they can sign up by location too, so they can kind of filter it towards their specific goals of what they're looking to get into, what location, what type of job.
Yeah, Brittany expressed that really well. Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
Uh, and this is a question regarding career change. What about someone who has been in higher education administration, teaching ethics and mathematics, but background who's been in quality assurance and engineering? After I got out the military as an officer, I went into quality assurance in the production side. So how does Nestle look at someone who wants to make a career change from maybe teaching, but has an engineering background, but now want to get back into the manufacturing side of business?
I'm going to tee that up to one of the recruiters.
No, that's fine. I was couldn't find my unmute button for whatever reason. So no, yeah, it's an interesting challenge. I know that you're seeing that on a daily basis, right? But yeah, I mean, we're going to look at your experience. Teaching is that's a hard gig. I mean, if you're doing that successfully, you're able to train and mentor and coach other people and individuals on certain areas and certain skill sets, and you also have kind of that engineering and quality background. No, those are all realistic skills that Nestle can use. And yeah, it's not traditional, but finding the right place in manufacturing, I think it's a great place for you to look at and target. And having been a recruiter in our factories for the last 6 years, yeah, I'd be pretty happy to see something like that come across my desk.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, we are coming close to the end of our time. I know we have 1 or 2 more questions down there. I wanted to address Harry real quick. Harry, I know you've asked a couple times about finding a program manager who can help get you connected. And this goes for anybody on the call, what Elizabeth was referring to was one of the Heroes Make America program managers. And we actually have myself, I'm Jen White, I'm at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. We have Rachel Wolford, who you've seen helping ask the questions. She is at Fort Riley, Kansas. We have Marvin Branch down at Fort Hood, Texas. And Lauren, sorry, down at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. So we are going to send a follow-up email that will contain the slides for Nestle. And in that, I'll make sure that we put the contact info for each of our program managers as well. So we can help get you in touch with whoever you may need to at Nestle. So thank you for asking that question. And then next question as well was, if somebody was to apply to a position for South Florida, how or who could they get in touch with to see the status? I assume you mean the status of your application, Olivia. Elizabeth, can you share that with her?
So Olivia, I don't know if you're coming through the program, but I think that if you are working with if you are and you're working with the HMA program manager, we can try to, they'll notify us if there's a position that was open on our site that one of the folks in the HMA program applies for. And from there, our team will try to get an update to share back with your HMA manager. That's something that's kind of a special treatment that you get as being, a part of this program and working, and which we work with, because that's a high touch that we can't offer to every applicant that comes into our talent funnel. So, I'm not sure if you're in the program or considering getting into the program, but just keep that in mind too.
And then last question, I'm going to make this one the last one for the day and then do some wrap up. Patrick asked if there is any future prospects for Nestle establishing anything in Kansas.
I don't know. I really don't know. I couldn't tell you about a specific location like that. I know that generally speaking, it's quite a big effort to establish a new location for the organization. So unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that question.
I can't speak to Kansas, but we did just recently announce there's going to be a new factory in Eden, North Carolina for Purina. That's very early stages, but it's a pretty exciting project for us to take on.
Yeah, that is cool. And if you go to the YouTube channel for Nestle, you can actually see a pretty cool video of the location. It's pretty nice to see. You can even see the space that we're acquiring to build out, right? So that's pretty cool. Go Purina,
And again,
establishing all the new factories.
not Kansas, but Missouri, Illinois, Arkansas, and of course, Ashley's factory in Iowa. We got you surrounded.
I was just going to say,
There you go.
Stevensville, Missouri is just right there on the border.
Yeah.
Might as well be Kansas.
Well, and I know from a Heroes Make America standpoint, we are very excited about that new facility coming to North Carolina too. So thank you guys for sharing all of that. So Tyler, can we go ahead and reshare your screen, please? Thank you. And then if you'll go ahead and launch that poll. So we are going to go ahead and wrap up here. You should have a poll that pops up on your screen. And there's actually 3 different questions there. So if you will take just a couple seconds to swipe through or roll up and down, whatever you need to do on your device to go through each of those questions and just give us a little bit of immediate feedback about this event. We're always trying to improve, but we love to share that with Nestle and our partner companies as well. And then once you're done with that, on your screen, next steps. A lot of information came through today, so I really want you to take note of everything on this screen. Nestle has created a specific link that you can use to go in and review their current job openings. So you see that link there once again. And then also a special link to join their talent community from today's event. So we'll share both of these out in that follow-up email as well. Please follow us on LinkedIn. You can just search Heroes Make America as well as Nestle. Follow both of those pages and then connect with all of our teams as well. LinkedIn, if you're not on it, we need to get you on it. It's such a great resource to build a network, to find support, to ask questions, and sometimes it's even a great foot in the door for your next opportunity. So connect with us there. And then also we use a hashtag for these events, Heroes Connect M2M. You can follow that hashtag so you can see, anytime we post something relative to one of these, might be before, so you can see the upcoming events, or it might be, feedback afterwards or follow up afterwards. So check that out and then share and invite others to these events. I hope that you found this very beneficial for yourself, but if you know somebody in the military or veteran community that can benefit from connecting with wonderful companies that are excited to hire talent from our community, just like Nestle, please share, when you get an email invitation or you see something on social media, share it with those folks as well. And then our next event is coming up next Wednesday, 1 week from today, same time, same kind of ish, same place on Zoom. We're going to be focusing on Sherwin-Williams for that event. So Wednesday, October 21st at 3 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Central.